Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we're just going to have a little bit of fun to celebrate 909 Day. And to do that I'm going to be inspired by Exhibitionist by Jeff Mills. And no, sorry to disappoint all you perverts, I don't mean that kind of exhibitionism. So the first thing to do, let's load up our Drumazon here, or any 909 for that matter. It's my default patch, so I'm just going to clear all of these. So here we're going to put a sustained note on C0. And the reason for doing that is because we're going to use the internal sequencer of Drumazon. So now when I play this back, we should have nothing playing. Indeed. Now he starts with a rim shot, so let's put that on each 4. Currently this is being accented, which we don't want that, we just want the ordinary hit. So let's make sure that's the half shaded one there. So as you can hear, the accent tells us when the beat starts essentially. Let's duplicate that over now. Let's do a go again. Let's move our note up. So now we're on C#0. So if we look now in the bottom right under host note, we can see we've moved from C to C#. We can see that all our sequencing is all blank now as well because we're on a different pattern. But let's click on C, click on rim shot, and we'll copy, go back to C, and then do paste. So we have that again. Now here's where our kick drum comes in. So let's put 1 on every 4. Play back what we have so far. Perfect. Once again, duplicate, move it up a note, back to the previous pattern, copy, both of these, copy, and then we'll go to D and paste that in. Now here is where the hand clap comes in on every offbeat. However, what he does here is he turns the rim shot level down. But we don't need to do that because we have a door. So let's go through and get rid of these rim shots here. We are going to do a bit of volume automation in a moment, but we don't need it for the rim shot. Let's have a listen to this. Let's turn down the level of that rim shot though, because the jump from when the kick hits is a bit too extreme. That's better. Now we're going to use a bit of artistic license and duplicate that for another bar, just because I want it to go for 2. Duplicate once more, and you guessed it, we're going to increase another note. Back to D, copy, back to D#, and paste. And here when it comes around again, there is another kick on this 16th, just before the second kick. So that sounds like this now. And because we're already repeating the kick, we can actually do that. Let's just bring that back one again. Good, that's working. D# up to E. Let's go back. Copy, down to E, and paste. And I think this one here is where I want it to be repeated for 2 bars. Next we have the toms, and once again because we have a DAW we don't need to do the manual work that he does, but what he does is really quite cool. He turns down the level of the toms, he programs them in so you can't hear them obviously, and then when he wants them to be audible then he turns up the level. So what that means is that you don't hear them gradually getting punched in, they come in complete. Very very simple but very effective also. See on the toms we have 1 on the first offbeat, and then 1 on the last kick. And then on the mid we have 1 that layers over the first low tom. And now we're grooving. So let's play back just this little section because I'm starting to feel it. Let's duplicate that. I think we want that to go for 2 bars also. And just to reiterate, if it's not clear, I'm just being inspired by him. I'm not trying to recreate this one for one, because trying to emulate a wizard seems quite difficult, I think. Next we have our hats. Let's enter them on every 16th. We might need to play with the settings on that. Let's have a listen first. Yeah, the decay needs to come down quite a bit. Man, I love the 909. Then after that, we're going to leave a bar of silence, because it's techno, which means tension also. Let's duplicate this after that bar of silence. We're currently on E. Let's move that up to F. Go back, copy our patterns here, over to F, paste. And here after the break, or after that drop, we have a rim shot coming back. Let's play that for 2 bars because we're really starting to groove now. Duplicate, move this up to F sharp, copy, 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 paste. And one incredibly critical thing that I've not done, silly me, is adjust the tempo. So it needs to be much faster. 134 is where we should be at. Now here is where we're going to do our first automation, and Drumazon is a bit unique in this regard. So what we're going to do, what we need is a snare roll. So let's add some snares on every 16th. And then we'll go up to our level, right click and enable host automation. And now this is set to host parameter slot 1. I think the reason for this is just because there's so many parameters. Doing it this way, it keeps it quite clean. So now we have that set up, we can go down and we can find snare drum level here. And we're going to draw this in. Sorry, Jeff, I know you're rolling your eyes at me right now. And we shouldn't get too clinical here because it's meant to be done by hand. Another thing we want to do, let's go to our close stats and then right click on that, enable host automation once again. This is slot 2, go down, we'll find slot 2, decay, and then we want this to ramp up also. And obviously because we only have 2 hands, we don't want any more automations than that. Up 1, back to F, copy, 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 and copy. In fact, we don't actually need the snare drum now. So we're going to copy to G and paste. And once again, what he does is turn down the level of the snare, but we can just not include it in our part essentially. We also still have the closed hat automation. Let's get rid of that. So it's back to low. And in fact, let's turn it up a bit because we didn't have it all the way down. And here, after that snare roll, we drop into the ride. Let's make sure we put it on the right one, on G. Let's duplicate that out. We want that for 2 bars at least. Let's duplicate this another 2 bars. We want it to play 4, and then once more, and then on the 5th, G sharp. Or in fact, instead of doing that, let's find one. Essentially what I want is one without the ride in it. So I think that's actually going to be just before we added the snare. So here. This one is F. And then here we're going to drop out the hats. Let's do that for 2. Let's copy our snare roll back. Let's put that here so we maintain the automation. Once again, Jeff is rolling his eyes at me because they shouldn't be identical. Obviously get rid of this rim shot because we didn't have that on the previous one. And the same as the hand clap needs to go also. There, let's go A sharp. And then for the final one, let's drop everything back in. And we'll do that for 4 bars. So let's have a listen to the full arrangement so far. So there we are, my take on Exhibitionist by Jeff Mills. Once again, just for fun, just to celebrate 909 Day, and hopefully you learned something about Drumazon also. So thanks for watching, normal service will resume next week. I'll see you then, bye bye.